Hello everyone. So this is another lecture on fast macro policy modeling too. So one of two fundamental models for level one GFS students. So this model is essential for mastery and must be completed before students formally advance to level one GFS testing. So, unlike traditional static approaches, this testing environment operates in a dynamic and adaptive learning structure, and these lectures aim to provide the necessary tools for students to progress at their own pace, developing a deep understanding of the macroeconomic concept required in this field. So, in this lecture, we will cover several critical topics. Initially, we will focus on practical applications, particularly the stock flow dynamics and steady state. So from there, we will transition to exploring the also global integrated monetary fiscal model and its use in analyzing fiscal rules and multipliers. So let's go and understand why steady states matter. So we begin by the establishing the significance of steady state within macroeconomic models. Even for applied macroeconomists, understanding the implication of stock flow relationships as the insight of steady state dynamics is critical. Such relationships help practitioners frame long-term scenarios and analyze policy effects over time. So one example that underscores this is the relationship between private savings and inflation. So empirical econometric studies frequently demonstrate a robust connection between the two variables. So this relationship reflects a broader economic principle, real neutrality, and which asserts that real variables such as savings are determined by other real factors in the long run, irrespective of nominal changes. Okay, so steady states refer to condition where the economy operates along a balanced growth path with variables like inflation, output, and also debt to GDP ratios remaining constant. So to illustrate, consider a simplified inflation equation. So here you can see the inflation equation, and this equation is dynamic due to the inclusion of both leads. Here we have this p t plus 1, and also we have lags here, which is this b t minus 1 in inflation. And in a steady state, inflation becomes constant. So will be equal to the pt minus 1 and will be equal to the pt plus 1, and leading to the simplified steady state form here. And here we can get as 0.5 yt is equal to 0. And in other terms, we can say that the yt is equal to 0 in steady state. And this implies that steady state conditions, the output gap must equal 0 to maintain stability. So this simplification is crucial when analyzing some large-scale and nonlinear macroeconomic models, such as global integrated monetary fiscal model or DSG models developed by institutions like the IMF. And these models often include thousands of equations, making closed-form solution infeasible. Instead, steady-state solutions are derived by like solving nonlinear system of equations. Okay. So okay, let's start with the uh, stock flow dynamics in like fiscal deficit. So key starting point in fiscal policy analysis is the identify that we can identify the connect government debt and also fiscal deficit. So this is the identity, and we can see that this debt is the fiscal deficit and D is the government debt. So we can understand that government debt, changes in the government debt is equal to the fiscal deficit. So the simple yet powerful identity states that the fiscal deficit equals the change in the government debt over time, and when combined with nominal GDP growth and inflation, uh, this identity serves as the foundation for analyzing fiscal sustainability and designing fiscal rules. So you can see to account for economic growth, these debt and deficit are often expressed as ratios of nominal GDP. So here we can see that deficit divided and all them are divided to the yn, which is here the nominal GDP, and also we can define also growth rate of nominal GDP, which is equal to the nominal GDP's current value divided by the also uh, uh, previous value. And also with this, we can get also equation for the small letter GYN, which is like equals to the growth rate of nominal GDP minus 1. So, okay, now in steady state, all nominal variables grow at the same rate as nominal GDP. And like this leads to the following steady state relationships. And here, by this equation, by this definition, we have the steady state growth rate of all nominal GDP. And also, for example, if we simplify this equation, so from the first equation, we can like get the dt minus 1. And also we had here the definition of fiscal for the debt, and also by using this equation for dt minus 1, we can like get the deficit, and with the other equation, and after that we can get this is the final equation of deficit, and where we use the steady state value of the GDP growth. So, those, for example, if nominal GDP grows at 4% annually, so our debt to GDP ratio, it will mean that it's equal to 100%, and the deficit to GDP ratio required for some sustainability would be approximately 4%. And if country like the United States considers its current debt to GDP ratio of 100%, which is unsustainable. A simple fiscal rule could target a reduced ratio, such as like 50%. And for instance, the maintaining deficit to GDP ratio of 2% would gradually lower the debt to GDP ratio to 50%, assuming nominal GDP like continues to grow at 4%. So let's move and analyze the primary deficit, and the total deficit can be separated into components. So the first thing is the primary deficit, which is the have this notation P here, and also interest rate payments. And primary budget deficit is a government expenditure minus revenues, and the interest payments calculated as the interest rate multiplied by like debt stock. So okay, here and also we can see that the real interest rate equation we have. So we know that real interest rate equal to the nominal interest rates minus the inflation. And then having all these, we can okay go and analyze as well the steady state growth rate. Okay, here you can see with this equation we can get the steady state growth rate of the nominal GDP. Okay, so okay, let's also say something about the non-Ponzi game condition. So to ensure fiscal sustainability, the primary deficit must satisfy some conditions. So this is the condition for the Ponzi game. Uh, and if the interest rate exceeds the nominal GDP growth, uh, which is this small letter G, government must run a primary surplus to stabilize debt. For instance, with a 100% debt to GDP ratio, a 6% interest rate, and 4% nominal GDP growth, the government would need 2% uh, primary surplus to prevent debt from spiraling upward. And also, if interest rates remain persistently above nominal GDP growth, so fiscal adjustments become inevitable. So in the example, I said that where the U.S. government runs 2 to 3% 2 to 3% primary deficit, a combination of significant taxes, increase and expenditure cuts account roughly 5%. And of GDP and would be required to stabilize this fiscal trajectory. And such adjustments would likely be politically and economically painful, underscoring the challenges of managing fiscal policy in a high interest rate environment. So, okay, and now suggesting you to okay, discuss some examples of stock flow dynamics, and these are related to these are the parts that are related to the current account balance and also net foreign assets as well. So, okay, let's see what we have here. So the same mathematical principles governing fiscal deficit apply to current accounts as well. A country's current account balance equals to changes in net foreign asset position. For clarity, a positive current account balance represents the surplus, and negative current account balance represent the deficit. So if we separate the current account balance into the trade balance and interest rate payments on net foreign assets, we observe that countries that with some substantial external debt must run a trade surplus to stabilize their net foreign asset position. And this is similar to the fiscal requirements of running a primary surplus when interest rates exceed growth rates. And for heavily like also for uh, heavily indebted country, its interest rates payments uh, to foreign creditors increase, requiring a trade surplus to finance these payments. And just the fiscal sustainability requires the primary deficit to adjust external sustainability requires adjustment in the trade balance, and if the interest rate on external debt exceeds the growth rate of nominal GDP, trade surplus become necessary to stabilize the debt process. So okay, here you can see that the current account balance we can define with the like trade balance and also with the net nominal interest rate and also these net foreign assets. Okay. And this also I want to mention that trade surplus requirements has implication for the real exchange rate as well. As to achieve a trade surplus, a country's real exchange rate must depreciate over time, and this depreciation ensures that trade flows adjust to stabilize net foreign liabilities. And to extent of these adjustments depends on the elasticity of supply and demand, which determine like how responsive trade volumes are to changes in um, exchange rate. Okay, so here we can see that this is this formula. We can say this equation like provides some illustrative calculation for the some cases in which the GDP is expanding over time. Okay. Uh, And beyond the fiscal and external accounts, stock flow relationships are central to understanding the capital accumulation processes, including private sector investment and housing and consumer durables. For example, if housing sector investment dynamics follow some perpetual inventory method, where change in capital stock equals the gross investments minus depreciation, so, and also we have that delta K is equal to investment minus the delta G, and delta, changes in G is equal to the capital stock, and where I is the gross investment, and also we have the rate of depreciation as well. Let's also get to some practical example from China's case. Okay, so China provides some illustrative case of the challenges associated with the investment to GDP ratio. Um, And for years, China maintained an investment to GDP ratio for approximately like 50%. And also, with sectors like housing alone accounting for a quarter of GDP, while such high levels of investment expanded the capital stock, much of it was allocated inefficiently due to like distortions in capital allocation, and this has raised concern about sustainability. Historically, no economy with such a high investment to GDP ratio has achieved a soft landing. And once capital stock reaches that level, the investment to GDP ratio naturally declines, and the investments only needs to cover depreciation and also modest growth in output, leading to some significant economic adjustments. Okay. Um, okay, and government debt, we said that in a particular country also will have an impact on real interest rates in the long run, only if it like affects global saving and investment at the level of the world real interest rate. And so I'm suggesting to go to the next tables and also which represents the estimates of the long run effects of changes in the ratio of government debt to GDP for each of these major industrial countries. So, okay, here we have an example where we have an increase of government debt to GDP ratio of 10 percentage points. So here we can see that have here different country cases, and here the each row represents the simulation outcome for the increase of debt to GDP ratio of the country in the row. And okay, here we can see these real interest rates. And here we have also already, sorry, here we already have results, and what uh, these results show us. So the first case said that increase in debt lead to the almost same increase in net foreign liabilities, and also like to service interest payments to foreigners trade balance surplus should be larger, and also this means that the real exchange rate must depreciate in the longer run. And also we have another case as well, and where the steady state level of liabilities increases less, and shock has less effect on current account and real exchange rate, and world real interest rate rises depending primarily on the size of the country in which the debt increases occurs. Okay, and also I have talked about the capital accumulation processes as well. So as we can, okay, we can go again to this part. So here we have the capital stock and output should be growing at the same growth rate, like to have like a balanced growth path. And here we have this GY, which is the gross growth rate in the steady state, and we say that it's equal to the growth rates. So the current period divided to the previous period. And also we had this equation before as well. And like most people usually think of growth rates as the percentage change in the variable. But also it's like much easier to do math with these gross growth rates. And here we bring an example that so when our GDP growth is at 2%, this means that this GY will be equal to 1.02. This means that if we divide the current period GDP to the previous period GDP, we will get the value of 1.0. Sorry, 1.02, and then this GY, which is also equal to, here we can see that, yeah, we define this gross growth rate, which is equal to the 1 plus this percentage change. And yeah, the percentage change would be equal to the like GY minus this one, which will be equal to 0.02. So this is about the 2 percentage points. Okay, and also I talked about this standard assumption that capital depreciates at this standard and constant rate of delta. And here we have defined this, for example, we have defined capital change in capital stock, which is the current value minus the previous value, and it's equal to the gross investment and minus the depreciation part. Okay. And then we said that okay, we can define this get all getting the whole equations, we can define this investment equal to this capital and other things from the equation. And then we can also get this GY, which we seen in the previous equation, which was equal to the big letter GY minus 1. And from here, we can have this equation for the investments. Um, okay. And also I discussed some like examples as well. Here you can see that we have that depreciation rate will be equal to 0.02, and we have this percentage change of GDP growth is equal to 0.03. And also we have here that between like 2002 to 2007 in the US, average residential investment to GDP ratio in like real terms was 5.3%. And in this equation we can put all the numbers. Okay, and then we can get that this investment to GDP ratio was fixed to 5.3%. Then the capital to the GDP ratio would converge to its steady state value. Okay, and with this equation, we have relationship this for this token, the flows that depends on the underlying growth rate, and also it depends also on the depreciation rate as well. So also before the 2008 global financial crisis, some people thought the sustainable rate of output growth was about the 3% in the US. And today, this like expectations change, and people think sustainable output growth is like around 1.8%. And sustainable output growth was revised down by 1.2 percentage points. And you can account for a large chunk of the actual decline in investment to GDP ratio, with a decline in the steady state investment to GDP ratio as well. So I think that's all for this session. So see you in next sessions.